first thing you'll need to know is if turning right at a red light is allowed in your city. Turning right on a red is not allowed in every city. In North America, as far as I know, the only two cities where turning right on red is not allowed are Montreal in Canada and New York City in the United States. Even then, in New York, it is allowed at a few intersections when you see a panel like this one. However, even in cities where it's allowed, it may not be allowed at every intersection. So first thing you should look for is if there is a panel like this one. If that's the case, turning right on red is prohibited at this particular intersection, sometimes at all hours, sometimes just at certain hours. You also have to come to a complete stop before turning. So you could see this as a stop sign if you're turning right. No matter if there are vehicles or pedestrians coming or not from the other directions, you still have to come to a complete stop. Be careful with this one, especially at the exam. Students see the drivers in front barely slowing down and they just follow, sometimes not even noticing that the light is red. And also, don't forget that since it is a turn, you have to do your verifications. So here's the procedure. Come to a complete stop, look to the left to see if there aren't any vehicles or pedestrians coming, do a visual sweep of the front, then look at your mirrors and blind spot to the right, and if the coast is clear, you can go. Be aware of pedestrians to your right or cyclists, like in this case. And also, make sure that if you have something blocking your vision, like a truck in this case, that you move so you can see far enough to the left before turning. Also, turning right on a red light is an option, not an obligation. So if you don't want to do it, especially at the exam, you don't have to. And it's not only people doing their exam that don't do it, so don't worry. Even if there are people behind you, you have the right to stay there and wait, even if they honk at you, which by the way, they're not allowed to do in this situation. And one frequent mistake students make when turning right on a red is that most of the time, they're too focused only on the vehicles coming from the left. Now notice this here, there's now an arrow on this side to turn to the left, so the vehicles in front might have the same arrow for them to turn to their left, but students don't see them because they're too focused only on the left side. So these vehicles start turning at the same time as you start advancing, and there's a risk of collision in some cases. At the exam, you might get braked and failed. Remember, when turning at a red light, you're last in terms of priority. And just as a side note, turning right at a red light is allowed because you're crossing the least number of lanes possible. That's also the reason why turning right should be your first option if you're at a red light and have to move because there's an emergency vehicle behind. And the last one that causes a lot of confusion is when you come to a situation like this one. Is this a right turn on a red? It isn't. If we were there, then it would be a right turn. But where we are now, we're actually going straight, but in a lane that curves, if that makes sense. Here's the same intersection seen from a top view. In this case, there's a panel to avoid the confusion, but you might come to a situation when there's none. So if that's the case, and you see two sets of traffic lights, the one in front of you is for you to go straight, and the one on the left is for the vehicles on the other side. I hope you liked this video. Thanks for watching.